is your... Okay. I'm trying to back out, and this lady is like, nah, I'm going. Go through me then. Anyway, look, what's up, guys? What's happening? Another beautiful morning today. Still a little dark. Daylight savings time. Hopefully you guys woke up on time. Hopefully you got to where you needed to be today and yesterday. Lost that hour of sleep, so everybody was kind of dragging ass. I need to go get my coffee. But other than that, man, we're doing pretty damn good. What's up? We got 2 people in here already. Look, let me tell you what, guys. I have been trying to make sense of this flat earth thing, putting the pieces together, and some of it like wasn't making sense from the perspective that I was looking at it. And I realized last night I found this guy, Martin Kenny, and man, this lady is bad as hell on her heels, man. Holy shit, that's crazy. Anyway, he put his theory in a perspective that made total sense. Now, I know he may not be completely correct with everything, but it's scary when something makes sense, and it's scary when what you're told doesn't make sense, right? All my life I'd realized that NASA, what they told us about the Earth and the planets, for the lack of anything better, it didn't make sense, but it made sense because you just believed it because, you know, well, they are the powers to be. They say they are the experts at space, and well, you know, you just gotta kind of roll with it. You know what I mean? So, you know, that's what we do, right? So we listen to NASA. You know, before I get into it, I did something yesterday. I looked at official NASA pictures of our planetary system, and there's one thing that I noticed about every video reel that they show you. If you watch the videos from NASA, at the end of every video they always tell you, enjoy the show, right? And I thought that was very peculiar, and I thought it was very interesting. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the show, is what they say after every video. I also noticed that every video they show you, they always tell you up front that what you're about to see are a conglomerate or a composite of data and CGI, right? So I was thinking to myself, oh wait, you know, that's really strange, right? That's really strange. NASA has to composite their photos, their systems. They have to composite it from data and CGI to show us what we are seeing. And that doesn't really, that doesn't make sense to me, because if you are already up there and you already have these videos and stuff like that, if you're able to take video of these planetary systems or these planets in space, why would you need to CGI it if you already have the capability of taking pictures and the capabilities of video? Why would you need to composite these types of photos and stuff like that? And I was looking at one specifically for Mercury, the planet Mercury, because I'm like, you know what does Mercury look like to them? And they said these are composites based on data and CGI. And I thought that was very, very strange. And so I'm thinking to myself, I'm looking at all the planets, right? And I'm just thinking to myself, they don't have a fucking clue. what really any of these things actually look like, and beyond what we can see here on the planet with our observatories. I think that is the only real way that they can really see these things. And this brings me back to what I was talking about earlier, when I was talking about Martin Kenney. He put the cosmic egg theory that made so much sense with the toroidal fields that surround our planets. I'm not our planets. Yeah, basically our planes, and basically the Earth is one huge terra firma divided into different layers, like a pyramid. And that is why each of these layers are surrounded by a toroidal field or a Van Allen belt. NASA did say that we have 5 Van Allen belts, and so to me it just made sense, because the Van Allen belts are electromagnetic. They are fields that NASA says that we cannot get through, that we cannot get past, we cannot penetrate it at this point in time. We haven't been able to do it for a long time, and it made more sense because he was basically saying our sun and moon, the sun and moon that we see every day, revolves right outside or within this Van Allen belt, or this toroidal field, and that makes complete sense to me as to why we actually can't get through that toroidal belt or that Van Allen belt, because and why we're unable to basically get on the moon, like why we cannot do it, and why we can't send really any rockets past that Van Allen belt. Because at first I was thinking, maybe it's just they can't send a human through the Van Allen belt like they have been saying. But then I started to think, and I started to listen to what NASA was saying, and NASA can't send anything. It's not just humans. I was thinking, why don't they just send a rocket to the moon, right? And why they haven't done that since we supposedly landed on the moon back in the 60s. And I started thinking, and I started listening, and I was like, you know what? They're telling us some truth. The truth is that there is a field. There are multiple fields. And that's why when we talk about the North Pole, when they talk about the North Pole, they always tell you about the North Pole being that there is a strong magnetic, electromagnetic field in the North Pole. So they can go to the North Pole to a certain extent, but they cannot travel past a certain point because of the electromagnetic force field around it, or field around it. And that never made sense to me when I thought about it. I'm like, well, okay, it's just a magnetic field. Why don't you just walk through it? Basically what they're telling you is that at the North Pole as well, there's just a certain point that you can't go past, that they can't penetrate, they can't go past it. And I thought that was very, very odd. I thought it was very, very odd. And it's the same thing with the sun and the moon. They revolve around a toroidal field or a force field that they cannot penetrate right now. And that's why they can't send anything, not just humans. They can't send an object. They can't send a rocket. They can't send satellites. They can't send anything outside of that field. And I started to think, and I'm like, you know what? This really makes sense on why NASA, they have to CGI, and they have to basically create what they think these other planets and galaxies and systems look like, because we can't even get past the point of our moon and sun to really see anything else. That's why when it comes to the moon and the sun, they can show you real images. They can show you, or what I would consider real images, because it's real enough to the point that I can look through a telescope and see the moon, the surface of the moon. I can look You can't really see the sun, but we can see it with our technology. Like, they can't really fake that aspect because we can actually see the moon with our naked eye. So I started to think, and I'm like, really, the sun and the moon are really the only thing that we can really, see with great detail, because it's within our field. So I was like, holy shit, like, this makes so much sense. This is why they don't have any probes. They don't have any real probes to really see anything outside of our field. I was like, that makes so much sense. So I started looking at NASA's thing and how they, we spent $450 million to send a probe to Mercury, but it crashed on the planet. It crashed against the planet and all this shit like that. But yet they still needed composites and data and CGI to create what the Mercury looked like and all this crazy shit. And I'm just like, that's fucking bullshit. Basically we pay them to give us CGI. That's basically what we pay them to do.
Two Dunkin' Donuts, what can I get for you?
Can I get a large hot caramel macchiato?
Oh, right now we're actually going to be out of our caramel. Would you like to try a different flavor?
Let's see. Can we do I can do a French vanilla.
Okay, and that was a hot French vanilla macchiato. What else for you?
That'll be it.
Okay, and just to let you know, right now we're only going to be taking exact dollar or credit, if that's okay.
Credit, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I'll see you at the window.
Thank you. Dude, what the fuck is going on with Dunkin' Donuts? Yesterday they had so many problems. I don't know what the hell's going on with this one. I have to stop coming to this one. But again, so I started putting these things together as I'm listening to Martin Kenny, man, and it just started making so much sense. When NASA, they are big. SpaceX is talking about going to Mars, and he was just making so much sense of it. He was like, really, our sun, Mars, and Saturn are actual suns. Jupiter, Neptune, or was it Neptune? No, Jupiter, Venus, and our moon are actually just moons. And he was saying how the outer lands, why outer space does exist, because a lot of flat earthers say that outer space doesn't exist, but it does exist. But he was saying that the lands where Mars and Venus exist, those outer lands, that is where our governments are actually trying to get to. They're not, when they tell you that we're going to Mars, they're not actually talking about going and visiting the actual that actual sun, that actual luminary. What they're basically telling you is that they're trying to reach the lands where those luminaries are the respective sun and moons of that outer land. So they're actually trying to get to the outer lands. That's why they're obsessed with trying to get out of this toroidal field, because there is more lands out there. Like, again, our terra firma is think of it as a pyramid, and each layer, like they tell you that our Earth is made up of different layers, like the crust, the mantle, all that stuff. And he was saying basically each of those things is a outer layer of other lands. It's a huge terra firma. So when people say our Earth is flat, it's flat to a necessary degree, but really we're a terra firma. We're a pyramid type terra firma. Maybe our area that we have is somewhat flat, but our area is the only thing that we can see. You know what I mean? And that's because of the electromagnetic field. And it just makes a lot of sense, man. Even if you watch Gundam, if you're a fan of Gundam, especially the old school Gundam, 0079, when they are in that type of, when they're in that advanced, they tell you a lot about Minovsky particles and stuff like that, and the particles basically to cloak different things and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of what the Minovsky particles in Gundam is man-made, basically particles to try to eliminate sight and stuff like that. But I don't want to digress. What I'm basically saying is that we have a very limited, we're very limited as to what we can actually do here. It's crazy. One second, let me get my coffee. Good morning. Thank you. So, definitely it makes more sense. So when they say that the edges of our plane are ice walled, that's what to me makes a lot of sense. And the North Pole being a place where they only have so much room to really navigate. This is why it makes more sense to me, because these are places that none of us public really have access to. And when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. That's why they have treaties for the Antarctica. Antarctica. I don't think it really is I don't think it's a country. I don't think it's really a country. I think it's a border, basically. And that's why that's what makes sense of why all the countries have a treaty for Antarctica. They're all trying to find out how to get out of it. And that makes sense when people say that, you know, they're digging. A part of this cosmic egg theory is that you know, it's not, we're not, the top part of our pyramid is not the only thing. There's a opposite, a duplicate right underneath it, and that's why if you look at the pyramids in Egypt, you'll see that you'll always see how the Egyptians will put like the double pyramid, which creates the star, right? It creates like a, you know, the star David or whatever. It's just two overlapping pyramids, and that's them trying to tell you that there's a top and a below. So it's really, really interesting. And when you hear people say that, you know, oh, you know, they're digging in Antarctica, they're trying to dig, and there's actually stuff underneath Antarctica. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to get to the other side to see what's underneath on the flip side. You know what I'm saying? What exists on the opposite side, because they can't get through. They can't get through the barrier. They can only go so far beyond the barrier of the Arctic wall. What's on the other side of that Arctic wall are the outer lands, and that's why where Mars and Venus exist. And I think that's why they're so obsessed, like I said, with trying to get there. They can't get there, period. You know what I mean? They can't get there because that toroidal field is not open yet. You know what I mean? They're trying to figure out a way to get there. And the same thing with the North Pole. They say that they can't go beyond a certain point because there's a strong electromagnetic field. Well, if we look at what ancient civilizations say about our northern pole, they basically say that there was once a land there, which was known as Atlantis or Atlas, which makes a lot of sense. It's gone now, right? It doesn't exist anymore. Well, to our knowledge, we can't get there to really see it. And basically, you know, that is a place where Mercury resides. The planet Mercury. Mercury, they say, is Kenny was saying that he thinks that Mercury is androgynous, meaning that it's both a sun and a moon. Or what they would call, if you heard anybody talking about the black sun, that is the sun that resides in Mercury. It has its own Taurus field as well, its own Van Allen belt. And that makes a lot of sense. And he was basically saying how we just exited the age of Pisces and we're going into the age of Aquarius, of knowledge. And basically that toroidal belt of Mercury that surrounds Mercury and that land, it's starting to expand. And when it expands, it's expanding, and it's going to eventually disappear because it's going to expand to the height of our toroidal field, which then pushes our toroidal field outwards as well. Yo, what's up, Jamie Brown? True Pablo, what's going on? And he was saying that basically the release of that Van Allen belt around around Mercury is basically it's starting to give people a heightened knowledge. It's starting to wake people up, and that's why we have a lot of people now waking up to government. They're not believing exactly what, they're questioning everything that the government is doing now. People are starting to wake up everywhere. Everything that we've been taught or drilled to understand and learn, people are starting to question it, and they're starting to make sense of it all, and realizing that the government really is just, they're really just talking a lot of shit. You know what I mean? And he's saying basically as it comes, that is what the government is truly afraid of, when they talk about Armageddon, when they talk about the coming of Christ, and you read the scriptures and you see how basically what it's talking about is true knowledge is going to come to the people. True knowledge is eventually going to awaken people, and that's why the elites, the people, the elites, they're trying to basically get out of this land, because they know that the way of life and the type of control that they have here is about to end. It's ending. It's gonna end, and that's why they're trying to get out. They're trying to get out to the outer lands to basically reset up shop. You know what I mean? And it makes a lot of sense, though. A lot of it makes a lot of sense. Some of it is like, I don't know about that, but basically the breakdown, man, is freaking crazy, man. It's crazy. I mean, it does make a lot of sense. The age of just agreeing with whatever there needs to, the age of agreeing with everything is over. The age of reasoning, questioning, enlightenment, that is upon us right now. You know what I mean? People, like I said, people are waking up. People are waking up to everything. And the further out, he was saying basically the further out that you get away from the center, the more inclined, the more not stupid you get, but the more or less connected with truth and reality, or the truth of real reality that you get. So the further you go out, basically the dumber you get. And that's why our governments of the world, or the elites, are trying to get out of this field. They desperately want to get out of this field, to get away from that expanding truth. He was saying basically eventually we'll come to the golden age where all the toroidal belts, there will only be one left, and everything is going to be connected. But it's absolutely crazy, man. That whole thing just made so much sense to me. And and if you guys have, if you are interested, you should definitely go check it out. Look him up, Martin Kelly, Cosmic Egg, his Cosmic Egg Theory. It just makes so much sense, man. My wife was watching it too, and she was over there looking, like trying to make sense of it. And I'm just like, you know what? Basically, I mean, there's so much stuff, guys. There's so much stuff. NASA does tell us a lot of half-truths. When they say that our planet's moving at 1,000 miles an hour, it's not an actual planet that's moving. He was saying basically it's that toroidal field, which causes the seasons, causes the winds, all that stuff to move. It's the field, the electromagnetic field, that Van Allen belt that's actually moving at that speed, and all the different speeds for the other Van Allen belts they move their own way as well, which is why all these planets that we see, like Jupiter and all that stuff, they have their own rotations, because that toroidal field that they're in moves at its own different speed as well. It's crazy, dude. I mean, absolutely insane. It is crazy. Morning. How you doing?
Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, and well, that's the thing, is that, you know, when we look at it, when we look at history, and we start to actually, like I said, a lot of people, everybody is starting to wake up to the fact of what's really going on, how our world is really run. And you know, it is strange. You know, it's strange how you would think that, like, how would we be able to, how are we living like this for so long? You know what I'm saying? And but you know, it's very surreal what's happening. And like I said, it just makes a lot of sense. If you guys go over there and check it out, you will. Some people will resonate with it, some people won't. I understand that. Like I said, some people are going to resonate with it, and some people ain't going to resonate with it. And in my opinion, it makes so much sense. You know what I mean? It makes so much sense that what they're trying to tell us. You know, our ancestors were right. They've basically been telling us all along how we live, where we live, what we're in. Like, they basically have told us, and we haven't chose to ignore it. Basically, what's been going on is that the elites have tried to usurp it. They've tried to change it. They've changed our perception of what really is. And I think the reason why they're trying to do that is because if people really knew that, or they thought that our system is created a certain way, they would probably lose their shit. And I think that's the truth. I mean, I think that in this day and age, I think if people really thought about and knew what kind of system we were on, I think it would change the way I think it would change the way we live. Our existence is not how they tell us it is. You know what I mean? A lot of things that, if you just break down a lot of things that they tell us about our planetary system, our solar system, our way of life, it just doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. And that's probably why there are so many sightings of UFOs. You know, there may be, he was saying that they're right underneath our mantle, the inner earth. There is life there, what people would probably call reptilians. There is life there in the inner earth, and that's probably, he's saying, what people see when they're talking about UFOs. But he was saying that basically the life that's in the outer parts of those outer worlds, they can't penetrate those Van Allen belts. They can't penetrate those yet. Maybe they found a way to project themselves into our world to see what we are doing, which made sense to me. Maybe they found a way to project themselves, or project things into our realm, to be able to see what we're doing, see what we're up to, see how, basically we're living, because they're just as interested in what's going on in our realm than their own. And so, he's basically saying, eventually, the reason why they're ramping up, our governments of the world are ramping up all these things to say that we're going to Mars is because the time period of when our Van Allen belts contract and expand, they're getting ready to basically give us a very small amount of time opportunity to get out, to be able to venture out into those outer lands. And that's why the government is so hell-bent on getting out to these outer lands, because there's more world out there. You know what I mean? There's no world. There's more world out there. Yes, we are very much in the construction. And like I said, each of these outer lands are basically have their own Van Allen belt. And they have their own sun and moon. It's crazy, you know, and look it up. You'll see videos of people that actually chart the skies with, they're charting the skies, and they always say, look, you can see a third sun. You can see a third sun, in the background, very, very faintly. Like, look it up on YouTube. I'm telling you, it makes so much sense now when you see that shit. The planets that we're seeing is different from the cosmos, the heavens. The planets that we see, that we know about. Yes, we can see them, we can chart them, but that is the exact reason why NASA, with all the money that we give them, that's the reason why they have not been able to actually go there and take actual pictures and take actual video. They can't do it. You know what I mean? They can't do it. And that's probably why a lot of these stars look like a bunch of hot gas, because there's a lot of electromagnetic fields out there, man. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff that we can't see through. But that's what they say. Exactly. It's so far, the galaxies and all that stuff, that's so far away from us that they can't even give an accurate description of what they are. You know what I mean? Much less tell you what they look like or whatever. So, like I said, it makes so much sense with that cosmic egg theory of why we have not been able to go to the moon, why we can't go to the moon, why we can't go to the sun. It just makes so much sense. So, when they tell you that, the sun is so hot, you know what I mean, and we're so far away, and that's the only way that we stay alive is because, we're so far away. But yet they can send a probe. They can build a $450 million probe to send to Mercury, which is supposedly the first planet to the sun, which doesn't burn up. But the $450 probe that they sent is sunproof. It won't burn up, right? That doesn't make any sense, right? Because you're so close to the sun that you would burn up at that point. But they can build a $450 million construct to basically negate the sun's heat at that close interval. It's all bullshit. We're not revolving around the sun. Our sun and moon revolve in our toroidal fields, which give us everything, and that's the only thing that we can actually see with clear distinction. That's the only thing that NASA cannot fake. They can't fake the moon. They can't fake the sun. They can't fake it because everybody can see it, right? They can't fake that. But what they can try to fake is they can try to fake us to saying that they went there. They've already told us. Basically, NASA tells half-truths, man. They tell us that they probably do have an ISS. Now that I think about it, they probably do have an ISS station. They probably really do. That's 220 miles above the atmosphere, the outermost atmosphere. They probably do, but they can't get past a certain point, right? Yeah, and they can't get past a certain point, and they can't get past a certain point, and the moon is so far away that, like I said, they can't get any objects past the Van Allen belts. The Van Allen belts, they can't get past it. That toroidal field, they can't get past it, and that's where our sun and our moon basically are. And that's probably why, if you look at videos of you look at videos of like balloons and stuff like that, rockets and shit, like that's probably why everything does look somewhat flat, or it does look somewhat I don't know. I guess you would call it round. Whether it's an oblique spheroid, like they say. Basically, I think that's a half truth too. I think that most of that is they're talking about that toroidal field is spheroid in shape, but I don't think that I don't think that they can get out of this motherfucker because Antarctica, I think, is just a huge ice wall, and to a certain degree, to a certain point, they can't get past the ice. Yeah, it's like the Truman Show, man. I think it's like the Truman Show. It makes sense to me, man. It really. I don't necessarily know if it's an ice wall. I don't think there's something that is so tall that we can't get over. I just think that there's obviously terrain that we cannot go past. You know what I'm saying? I think it is there is terrain that we cannot go past. If you ask yourself how that is, ask yourself why they